What's going on, everyone? This is Nate the Great coming to you live from the All Sports All Plays Network. I am here today with Ray Cruz, and I'm also here today with Greg Hot Seat Gallino. How are the both of you doing?
Doing good, Nate.
Doing great, Nate.
You know,
Nate, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. The stuff that happened today, it was okay, but I'm disappointed about yesterday's Nuggets and Suns matchup, and just the Nuggets and throughout this remaining of the series. But let's talk about that later. I'm gonna save that for later. But I am going to start off with a little bit of NBA and talk about today's games that are going on right now. Well, earlier today, the Atlanta Hawks beat the Philadelphia 76ers 103-100. Tobias Harris was the leading scorer for the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid and Seth Curry were close. They were 3 points shy of Tobias Harris. But it wasn't that usual 20-point game that we see from Joel Embiid. Tobias was the only person to actually score 20 plus. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this to Ray first. What are your thoughts on this as the series tied for Atlanta?
Well, to me, if you look at Joel Embiid here, he only had 17 points. He usually pulls in about 30 some points here. So I wonder if his knee was really bothering him pretty much. But anybody that took 4 for 20 from 2 point range and 1 for 4 and 3 point range, he should have took that. He should have took Capella down inside and just posted him up and blistered him inside. I mean, Joel Embiid is better than what he is. I think it's just last days goal on his part. I wonder if he's worrying about his knee at the much thing. If you look at this game here, Philadelphia 76ers were leading pretty comfortably at halftime, but they only scored 38 points in between the third and fourth quarter of the second half, which is only 38 points. And then you had Atlanta finish it up with 54 points in the second half. So that's really the turnaround at half point by the Hawks and clamping on the defense there really put this game away for the Hawks and tied up the series. So I've seen this series going about 7 games anyway. That's why I picked it when the series started. So it's leading up to his hype right now.
Now, I just want to say one thing before we give this on to Greg. The Atlanta Hawks scored 31 points, and that is 7 in the third quarter, which that is 7 shy of what the Philadelphia 76ers did in the second half.
Yep.
Just saying, that does not look good. That does not look good. Now, Greg, what are your thoughts on this game? We saw something that was very similar last year when the Clippers, and I point this out because it's the same coach, Doc Rivers. He had in that game 7. Game 7. The Nuggets scored more in the third quarter than the Clippers did in the second half in that game 7 last year. So we saw something similar there. Now, Greg, what do you think is going on? What do you think the Clippers should improve on? Not Clippers. 76ers should improve on?
Well, I think what the 76ers need to improve on, I mean, they really, for the most part, all the people that got major minutes weren't shooting that well. Like Ray Cruz said, like Ray said, Joel Embiid shot about 20% from the field today. I mean, he still finished with 17 points, but he got half of those points from the free throw line. They really need to assess, how hurt he really is. I know he's going out there, but that's a very uncommon game for Embiid to shoot 4 for 20. I mean, that's ridiculous. He's normally in the 50 to 60% field goal range. So I don't think that anybody really for the Hawks was that great defensively against him. He just wasn't hitting shots, wasn't finishing down there. As far as what the 76ers need to do, they started out pretty strong in this series, but Atlanta's been going back and forth with them pretty good. I mean, Atlanta didn't have like a well balanced attack, but they had two guys that absolutely tore it up. Trae Young came out and tore it up. He scored 25. Bogdanovich scored 22. After that, I don't think anybody really sniffed double digits, but they were able to hold on to the win. It is a big win. I've been thinking all along that Atlanta is going to push this to 7 games. For real, if Embiid is not 100%, and he doesn't look 100%. I think that if he was 100%, this would have been a five-game series maybe, but he just doesn't look like himself right now. I mean, I don't know what's going on. There were some gimmies in there. 4 for 20 from the field. That's just a very uncharacteristic performance from Embiid, who was second or third in MVP voting. So they need to figure out, what he can do for them out there while he's playing, and they need to get Simmons a little bit more involved. He didn't seem to really be that involved in the offense that much tonight during some spans too. So. I don't know quite if they're kind of out of sync or what, but I think that Atlanta is going to push this, and they may be able to take this. I mean, it all depends on how healthy Embiid is.
Yeah, you're right. It does depend on how healthy Embiid is. Looking at this, Joel Embiid had 36 minutes in this game with this condition. That's not really a smart move. Doc Rivers, he's been great, but I really don't agree with that. I think that you probably should have put him on less minutes because of this game. Because of his injury. So not tomorrow, whenever they play that game 5, I think they should probably do the same thing and put him under less minutes.
Yeah.
Maybe have like a 10 minute.
I really don't know. I agree that he probably needs less minutes because 36 minutes, and I think he's got like a slight partial tear, maybe a meniscus tear or something like that. And so I don't know exactly how they're treating it. I don't know if they're giving him like steroid injections and trying to see if it'll, at least be stable throughout the playoffs. I don't know how they're really attending to it, but yeah, 36 minutes seems like a big load for a guy that has some knee issues, off and on throughout his career since college. So
I just want to point something else out. My fifth grade year, I had a slight tear in the meniscus, and I had to be on crutches for a couple of weeks. I just wanted to point that out. I think that so I couldn't really, even after crutches, I couldn't even play outside during PE or do any physical activity for another 6.
Yeah, I know that from a medicine standpoint, doctors don't really like to mess around with meniscus surgeries unless they absolutely have to. We've seen it time and time again, with Derrick Rose and a few other players that have had to have those kind of surgeries. They definitely don't in your career, but a lot of knee surgeons and stuff try to avoid that if they can and try to give you some steroid therapy and everything. But the last thing that Embiid should be doing on a slight tear is putting in 36 minutes of hardcore running and basketball play on it. I think that if he is going to be out there, they need to figure out a way to try to get him a lot of good looks, but maybe keep him under about 24, 25 minutes.
Wow. I'm just looking at the score of this next game right now, and the Clippers are currently up over the Utah Jazz 51-22. Rudy Gobert in this game has, now that I look at it, Utah total has scored 22 points, but not even Donovan Mitchell has scored 10 yet. No, I get it.
He scored 10.
Okay, now he scored 10. But for me, on my scoreboard, it shows they scored 9. But you look at the Clippers, you have a lot of people stepping up. Paul George is having a great game. with 15 points. Kawhi Leonard has 12. Marcus Morris Sr. has 14. Now, to be honest with this, if this is continuing to go like the way it is, I honestly think it's going to be Clippers in 6. If you continue to have games like Game 3 or games like what it is right now. Now, Ray, what do you think the Jazz need to do to turn this around? I know it's not even halftime yet, but are you a little bit concerned with this Utah Jazz team at this point?
I would be, because Bogdanovic, he has only gotten 2 points. He's really the focal point of their. When he goes and Mitchell goes at the same time and Ingles go, this team goes. But also they're missing their Callis and Conley too in their guard position. So they got, if you look at it, they got Mitchell playing that point guard position. That might be taken away. He's got 14 points now, and the score is 55-29 with 3:36 left in the second period. Gobert needs to step up in his defensive presence. He's really not providing. He got no blocks right now. He's not providing that shot rim protector right now. And then if you look at the other hand, if you look at what's going on with the Clippers, you had Kawhi Leonard with 14. You had Paul George with 15. You have Marquise Morris with 16. And then you have Mann with 3. And then Luke Kennard coming off with 3. So you're seeing a well-balanced attack right now by the Clippers. I mean, their superstars not getting ahead of everybody else. They got some role players that are playing pretty good right now. So right now it's 15. We're looking at a 25-point lead right now. So if this thing keeps going the way it's going, you see the game going 2-2, and then we can see a whole new series coming around. And this kind of tells me this game is some sort of like the Dallas Maverick game here, where the Clippers are now finding a little bit of rhythm to get into. And if Utah can't find a way to stop this rhythm, and if Clippers keep going on, this series could change hands tonight.
Yeah. Greg, anything else that you have to add on?
Well, it's pretty apparent that the Jazz are missing Conley right now in the lineup. He's a great facilitator, great ball handler, great presence, plays solid defense. But like Ray was saying, Gobert needs to step up. He's not really bringing anything to the table right now. He's put in about 11, 12 minutes. He's got 3 rebounds. Really hasn't done anything. He's got 1 point. Mitchell's trying. He's played 16 minutes. He's got 14 points. But outside of Mitchell, they don't really have anything really going on. I mean, you got Bogdanovic with 4 points in 17 minutes. You got Clarkson with 5 points. So really nobody besides Mitchell is really stepping up to play. And I know that we had a segment. I did a segment with the Con Man when I first started this working on the network. And we were talking about, are the Jazz for real? Are the Jazz for real? And, I didn't at that time have the Jazz even in my top 5, even though they had the best record.
I remember that because I was on that show. Yeah.
Yeah. And remember that, Nate? I was talking about how I just didn't quite see it yet, even though they had a great record. They had great things going on. They seem like a team that plays very well together. They don't have a lot of big names, but they all seem to work pretty well together. But I think what you're seeing right now, especially in this route that's going on with the Clippers right now, I think they're up 55 to 29 or so. Is you're seeing 2 outstanding all-around players in Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. They're starting to wake up. They're both excellent offensively, but they're equally excellent defensively. And so when you've got 2 players like that, just like Jordan and Pippen were all NBA defensive level players, but they were outstanding offensive players too. So when you've got a couple of guys like that on one team that can shut people down, which we're seeing right now, because we're seeing a lot of low scoring right now from people that on the Jazz that are used to scoring, I mean, there's a few people that would normally have at least 10 points right now. But Mitchell's the only one that's really doing anything, and everybody else seems to be kind of shut down right now for the Jazz. So I'm not saying that, I'm not necessarily saying that the Clippers are going to win the series, but if they win this game, which it looks like they're well on their way, I think that the Clippers will win this game, and I don't even think it's going to go 7. I think that they'll finish it off in 6.
Jordan Clarkson is currently the second, outside of Donovan Mitchell. Jordan Clarkson is currently their leading scorer with 5 points.
Yeah,
and it's not looking good. And I keep saying that, but 5 points as your second best scorer with 3 minutes left in the second quarter. Anyway, let's just move on. So let's go on the hockey side a little bit. As the Canadians finally end their streak of the number of minutes without having a deficit. The last time they were actually losing was against the Toronto Maple Leafs. When they played against the Jets, not only did they sweep, but they lost. I mean, they never yes, it was tied 0-0, obviously, but they were never at a point where the Jets had more points than the Canadians. Finally, we get to that point against the Vegas Golden Knights. And to be honest with you, I think that the Canadians are going to move on, but I think it's not going to be a sweep like last time. I think they're going to lose game 1. But I have this going 7 games. Canadians in 7 games as a prediction. Golden Knights are currently up 3-1 over the Montreal Canadiens. So, what are your thoughts as this game is going forward? Go with Greg first.
Well, remember I told you the betting lines. I figured that Montreal was going to at least push this game to 5. I didn't think that they were going to get swept. I mean, the Vegas Knights right now, they've got 23 shots on goal. Montreal's got 17. Cole Caulfield came in and kind of broke the scoreless. Montreal didn't have any goals, and then Cole Caulfield came in and got his first goal. For Montreal in the playoffs. So I don't know if this series is going to go 7. I just see that Vegas is playing with a little bit more tenacity. They're getting up and down the ice a little bit better. They seem to be getting after it a little bit more. Montreal doesn't really seem lackadaisical, but it just seems like Vegas seems to be in the right place at the right time, at least during this game. I would really love to see Montreal move on. It's been a long time since we've seen a Canadian team, compete for the cup. For the last 28 years or so, we've seen nothing but United States teams, holding up the Stanley Cup. So it'd be great to see Montreal. It'd be great for their city to move on to the Stanley Cup. But I just, here's another. They've just had another shot on goal, Vegas Knights. So, they're out shooting Montreal by about 4 or 5 goals, shots on goal. So they're just putting a lot of pressure on Price. Price is doing decently in the net, but he's not doing near as well as he was in the first 2 rounds. And I think that says a lot, because I think that the Avalanche and the Knights are both 2 teams that really get up and put a lot of pressure on the goalies. I think that the advantage here would go towards Vegas, just because they have Fleury in the net. Fleury is definitely an MVP type candidate, throughout the playoffs, throughout the season. He's played excellent. He's fourth all time in career playoff wins as a goalie. So, so that's a pretty good tribute to him too in the goal. So I see this series. I hate to say it, but I think that this series is probably going to go 6, and I think that the Knights are probably going to take it because I think that they just put a little bit too much pressure on the defense. And as far as Montreal is concerned, their best player, in my opinion, is their goalie, Carey Price. He's the one that kind of keeps them in the games with his excellent goaltending. But as fast and furious as Vegas gets up and down the ice, I just think it's going to be a little bit too much for him to carry this load.
So Ray, what is your prediction for the series?
My prediction, when this series started, I was like, when we went over to the segment for topics and stuff like that, I think Vegas had a little bit of better at goalkeeping than Prices with the Canadians. So, I had the Golden Knights winning in 5 games. I gave 1 game to the Canadians. So, I mean, if you look in the telltale right now of this game, it's now 4-1. They just scored. Vegas just scored a goal here in the 3rd period. So, I mean, if you're looking at it here, they only given up 19 scoring opportunities, one point, and they have 18 saves. And if you look at Price has now got 27 shots on goal. He has only saved 23. So that's right now the difference of this game right here. The goalkeeping right here. I understand the same thing what Greg said. I think Prices won't be overwhelming in this series. I think this is just a good team of the Vegas Knights. So I think Vegas is going to win it in 5 games.
They're just putting too much pressure on Price. And Price looked absolutely ridiculous when they scored that last goal. He was out of position. His own man was blocking him. He couldn't even see the shot coming in. They just looked completely out of sync defensively on that last goal.
Now, I want to point out something. I'm going to go back to the NBA real quick. Joe Ingles is currently the leading scorer for the Utah Jazz, and he hasn't even hit the 10-point mark, and it's now halftime. I don't even think the Jazz are going to win this. But let's go back into hockey and talk yesterday's game. Now, Greg, I'm going to give you the spotlight. Well, not the spotlight, but Greg, I'm going to put you up first. And your Islanders won Game 1. Do you think that this series is going to be a revenge series for the New York Islanders, or do you think the Lightning are going to make it back to back?
I really hope that your time traveling abilities are a lot better than mine, Nate, because I predicted that the Maple Leafs were going to do something, and they didn't. I predicted that the Avalanche were going to do something, and Vegas
So did I.
overcame it too. and the Vegas Knights overcame a 2-0 deficit to win that series. So I'm hoping that your time traveling abilities are a little bit better than mine, because I know that you had my Islanders going into the Stanley Cup Finals, and I would love absolutely nothing more than to see that. The Islanders have been one of those teams that's been on the cusp for the last few years, but have always fallen short. But we picked up some great players. We've had to replenish our depth a little bit. We lost Anders Lee, picked up Palmieri, which was a great decision. I think he was the steal of the free agent market, because he's really been coming through in the clutch offensively for us. So I think this might be a revenge series. But remember, Nikita Kucherov is coming back, and he has been lights out. He came off of that hip surgery, and he has just been playing lights out hockey ever since the end of the regular season when he started to come back. So so Tampa Bay is ready to go. They're locked and loaded, and they got their team back and healthy, and they're seeing they're going to be successful with Kucherov coming back if he's fully healthy. But I would absolutely love to see my Islanders take this. It was a great win last night. 2-1. Barzal played lights out, was putting in some good hits, came through with a goal. They played excellent defense. One great thing about the Islanders is defensively, they can put a team into situations that makes a team kind of try to take risks. They put so much into their defense with their trappings and everything else that they really try to force a team like the Lightning to take unnecessary risks. And a lot of teams fall for it, because that's what the Islanders do. They get after it. They put themselves in positions where other teams think, oh, well, I might be able to make this pass. The next thing you know, they try to make that pass and it gets stolen. So that's kind of what the Islanders thrive on. I would absolutely love to see this series go to the Islanders. It's been a long time since the Islanders have made it to the Stanley Cup. So I don't know. I don't want to count out Tampa Bay because they get up and down the ice like none other, and they're last year's champs. So I don't want to take anything away from them. But I think right now, I think that my Islanders definitely have a great chance at winning this thing.
Now I want to say one thing though. I keep doing this. And I keep jumping ship on my predictions, and the first one seems to be right. It happened pretty recently with Vegas Golden Knights and Colorado Avalanche. Game 1 happened, so I jumped ship and I moved from Vegas to Colorado on predictions, not who I'm rooting for. I always will be a Colorado Avalanche fan. I just didn't think that they were going to win this series until I saw that Game 1 matchup where Avalanche won 7-1. And after that, I jumped ship, and I thought Colorado was going to win the remaining of the series. But I keep doing that, and it keeps I keep getting the first one wrong. NFL, I got the first Jacksonville Jaguars game where I actually predicted at first that the Jaguars were going to win it, but then I flipped and the Colts won. I keep doing that. So from now on, I should not, even if it does seem crazy as Game 2, Game 3, or Game 4 happens, I will not jump ship until it's over. And we do have a couple of comments. Total Deegan, he says that Price is a way better than the Vegas Golden Knights goalies.
I wouldn't go against that, but it's really hard to win a game when a team is out shooting you on goal 30-19. That's just way too much pressure. The thing about Fleury is he hasn't really had much pressure tonight. He's had 19 shots on goal. Not all of them were great opportunities, but 19 shots on goal. So 11 more shots on goal for Vegas. That just puts a lot of pressure on Price. I feel bad. He's in the crease. He holds his own. He is Montreal's best player, but they need to step up their defense because they're just giving up way too many opportunities. And it's hard to win when you're getting outshot by 10 to 12 shots on goal.
Now we'll give this to Ray as the next question. Now, what is your prediction for the New York Islanders and Tampa Bay Lightning? Who do you think is going to win? Now, Total Deegan, if you're watching, I want you to answer this question as well. Who do you think is going to win the Tampa Bay Lightning and New York Islanders series?
Well, to me, I still like Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay's, they got the fast-paced type hockey game, but it's also becoming a defensive battle. In this game, first game was a defensive battle. 2 games, 2-1. Both teams have some similarities of saves on the goal. Tampa didn't score until the third period. and it was already full fetched from that because the Islanders scored one in the second, one in the third, made it 2-1. So I mean, like you say, you jump your ship on the first after the first game. You see how teams play and stuff like that. I stick with my prediction all the way out. I'll go all. I pick Tampa. I pick Tampa in 7. I think Tampa will win in 7.
I'm not going to jump my prediction anymore. And I keep saying that, but I end up keep doing it. I don't know why. So I'm sticking with my prediction, and I actually think that the New York Islanders are going to win over the Tampa Bay Lightning in 7 games. Now it goes to now is the part where I talk about yesterday. Going back to basketball, I was first off, even though it hurts to say this, I agree with the refs about it being a foul. The Joker foul against Cameron Payne. I disagree about the injection, and I disagree what Cameron Payne did afterwards, him falling on the floor like that. Now, granted, I wasn't part of that game. I wasn't playing in that game. So, it didn't, to be honest, that how it showed, yes, I do think it should have been a foul, but it wasn't. It looked like it wasn't being addressed towards the face, and it was addressed towards the ball, his hand. As a matter of fact, the Joker, the one who got ejected from the game, even said that he had tried to do a foul, which I don't think was a great idea. I didn't like that. I didn't like the refs call, to be honest. And I keep saying this. I keep making jokes about this, but the refs need to go back to school. Because I didn't agree with that decision, and I didn't agree with most of what the decisions that they did in the Lakers-Suns series in that final game as well. Also, I wanted to point out something that Coach Malone said. In this series, I really think that the only person who was trying to win this series was the Joker. Nobody else was really trying in this series, what Coach Malone pointed out. Now, Jamal Murray was hurt. So I'm not mad at that. But I know Michael Porter Jr. had a 20-point game, but he really didn't have the best series either. To be honest with you, I would pull the trade, get rid of Austin Rivers, get rid of Michael Porter Jr. and a couple of draft picks for Damian Lillard.
Well, I mean, if you see some of the comments, Lillard probably wants to end up in New York. He won't yank Knicks, but I mean, you got to look at the cap and all that for the Knicks and stuff like that. But if you grab Damian Lillard, then you can, you have a good short thing in there with Murray and Joker and Lillard as their big three. So I mean, but you don't want to give away Michael Porter Jr. either, because Michael Porter Jr. he might turn around and come out pretty good next year. He's still learning the game of NBA and all that. He's still getting stronger. He only played 1 year of college basketball, so I mean,
yeah, fair.
He's only going to be in his junior year right now. So I mean, you can't. He's a young talent that you don't want to get rid of. So I mean, you can make some other trades for Lillard and give away some draft picks and stuff like that and try to take on his contract. But yesterday, like I said early on, bring it. I think that foul was not a flagrant 2 foul. It could have been a flagrant 1. Just the intent of him swinging across the face, but he really never hit the face. I slowed it down and watched it in slow motion. When the referees watch it in replay, they don't watch it in slow motion. New York has this ability to do it in slow motion, but they don't care. They just went with the referees at the site. But I mean, to me, a friggin' 2 and kicking them out, I think that was totally wrong. I think that was misconstrued the way. But the act of Cameron Payne going down to the floor, I think is more of an acting job than it is him actually going with the actual foul and stuff like that. So today's NBA is totally different from the NBAs that I have watched in the past. I mean, if you're swinging for the ball, you're just going for a hard foul, basically. But he swung across the body and it really didn't touch him across the face. So, I mean, the 2 acts together made it look worse than what it was. And it wasn't totally for a fragrant 2. A fragrant 1 would have been all right. Been a good call, better call than a flagrant 2 and kicking them out of the game.
And, I said this about LeBron. I'm going to say this about Cameron Payne. LeBron got the actor. I joked around about LeBron getting the Actor of the Year award. I think Cameron Payne should get Actor of the Year award next year just because of this call.
Well, Cameron Payne probably took the same acting class LeBron James took.
Anything to say on that, Greg?
Well, I gotta say something. Okay, Jokic was by far the MVP this year. Okay, outstanding player. I mean, he's pretty much a center point guard. One of the best passers in the league, not just for a big man, but one of the best passers. Period. He sets up a lot of things. He's good for at least a double-double, potential triple-double. All the time, with his rebounds, potential assists. He's always getting, 7, 8, 9 assists a game. So he's an excellent player. You gotta think, not to really call out the refs, but you kind of have to wonder if this was another player, let's say another franchise player or a face of the NBA, like a Steph Curry or LeBron James or something, would the same exact thing play out? Would one of those guys or someone that is a definite, face of a franchise, face of the NBA, big money maker for the NBA, would the same result happen? Would a LeBron James get tossed in a game of this magnitude with the playoffs on the line, a potential elimination game, which ended up being an elimination game? Would a Steph Curry, would he get tossed, or would they look at things and go, well, maybe that wasn't, quite as hard of a foul or something? You kind of have to, I don't want to really overthink it, but I'm not saying that they had anything against Jokic. I don't know what all was said, and everything to the refs during this whole altercation and everything. But you kind of have to wonder, would this situation happen consistently with everybody, or was this just kind of a spur of the moment? Because we've seen some refs in the NBA over the years. Some are kind of hotheads and don't put up with anything, and then some are more cool-tempered. We've seen all kinds of different personalities from refs. We've seen refs that like to tee people up for not much, and then we see a lot of refs that take a lot of abuse and don't call much of anything. So you got to wonder, would this be a consistent call throughout the league, or was this just kind of a judgment call? So it was unfortunate that it ended up like this. I'm with Ray that I don't think that the play should have really been, flagrant and getting tossed and everything, especially in a game 4 potential elimination game and everything. And with the league MVP, I think that they could have had a little bit more understanding. I think that they could have maybe not made it as severe, with getting tossed. I think that they could have had a flagrant 1 or whatever they needed to do. I really don't think that play was quite as intense, and you're talking about the acting job and everything. So it was just a very unfortunate game 4. I expected more competition. But I'm with you, Nate, too, about how Jokic seemed to be the only player playing with a lot of fire for the Nuggets. He seemed to be the only one, not to take anything away from the rest of the team. But yeah, Porter seemed out of sync. Gordon played pretty consistently. He was a great pickup for them at the trade deadline, but they definitely missed Jamal Murray's presence. It was unfortunate that he went down right before the playoffs because he was a big catalyst for their offense too. But the Suns, man, they came out. The Suns came out. They're all gas, no brakes. They came out on fire. They got, in my opinion, the best backcourt in the league with Booker and Chris Paul. The veteran and the young gun. And as far as I'm concerned, Chris Paul's play has been absolutely outstanding. And in my opinion, I think that Chris Paul is one of the most underrated players in the last 15 years or so. I mean, I think that he gets some respect, but I don't think people understand just how good this guy is. I don't think the Suns would be where they are right now without his leadership and everything that he's brought to this Suns team. So that's all I gotta say overall in a nutshell about that whole series and event.
So we do have some time left. Do have some time left. So I'll give this to Ray. Kyrie's down. James Harden is not playing. They both have been ruled out for Game 4. All this down to Kevin Durant. Does this change your prediction at all about this series? Do you think the Nets are still going to win this?
My opinion, like everybody, you talk about prediction and stuff like that, but it's the same situation that LeBron James had with the Lakers. It's the same situation, Kevin Durant has right now. Without one of the two, Harden or Kyrie, it takes Durant has to put the team on his back. Have we seen this before? No, we have not seen him really carry a team all the way into the playoffs, on his back and stuff, which now the series have turned because now when Kyrie went down, the whole series, Milwaukee came back and just even up the series. Now the series is, I think the momentum is now switching over to Milwaukee. I don't think Durant's going to have that ability to carry a team on his back. And he's going to have role players step up, and they don't have enough role players to actually step up. That means Blake Griffin's going to have to step up and be the Blake Griffin of old. He's going to have to short some scoring on there. He's got, then you got the bench players. They got to pick up their scoring. So where are you going to score? You're missing what, 20, maybe 21, 22 points from Kyrie. You're also missing what, 35, 36, maybe 28 from Harden. So who's going to replace those production? They haven't gotten it so far. I mean, when Durant is out there he can score his points. He's going to get his points, regardless of how Durant. But when you got the number 2 player, as some people think he's the number 1 player in the NBA right now, he's the best player in the NBA. Okay, now this is going to show him if he's that number 1 player, and I don't think he has that ability right now.
What about you? What about you, Greg?
Well, last night's game, last night's game with the Bucks and the Nets was pretty scary if you're a Nets fan. And, so here it is. Kevin Durant basically was the Nets offense. Okay, 28 points, but he put in 42 minutes. Okay, and then you have Kyrie Irving, who only put in 17 minutes and only put in 11 points. And then you got, they picked up Blake Griffin. He played 25 minutes, 8 points. So outside of Durant, they're missing Harden in a terrible way right now because Harden is a pretty good facilitator as well. He's not an outstanding defensive presence, but yeah, they're missing a lot of scoring. You're talking about 25 plus. Missing out of the lineup like Ray was talking about, and then Harris came in 8 points. Brown scored 7 points. Green scored 8 points. So outside of Irving, getting 11 points, Durant was basically the show. He was the only one. Those were the only two in double digits. I think on paper, I think that even without Harden, I think that I think that the Nets are a better team on paper, when you factor in Durant, Irving, Griffin. But yeah, you're going to have to get more production with Harden out of the lineup. Somebody's going to have to step up. Somebody's going to have to come and break double digits. 8 points from Griffin's not going to get it done. 11 points from Irving's not going to get it done. So if Durant and the Nets are going to have to show anything, Durant's going to have to get in the 35 range probably, and Irving's going to have to pick it up and get into the 20 to 25 range for them to try to get over the top without Harden in this lineup. So I still think that the Nets, I made a joke a few days ago when I was dealing with the cable guy that the Bucks stopped here because the Bucks were playing absolutely terrible. But now here we are sitting at 2-2, and I really don't know at this point anymore what's going to happen in this series because it's been so inconsistent. It's like one night the Nets are putting up 130 points, and then the next they can't even break 100 points. So, and then it was like the Bucks a few days ago. They couldn't even score like 85 points. So it's just kind of one of those weird series going on, and it's not like the Bucks were playing fantastic defense to hold the Nets under 100 points. It was just that I think that the Bucks just came out and said, you know what, Durant's going to get his points and everybody else is not going to really contribute much. I think that was kind of their game plan, was to let Durant do what he was going to do and then try to maintain everybody else. So as far as this series is concerned, I would give the edge to the Nets as long as Irving is able to give them significant minutes, because they're going to need a lot more than 11 points from this guy, and he's way too talented to only be playing 17 minutes. So I don't know. Did he have an injury in last night's game?
He did.
He has severe ankle injury. He's not playing Game 5. Harden's not playing Game 5. It's going to be Durant only in Game 5 out of the trios there.
Yeah, so it's so for Game 5, you're either gonna have to see an explosion out of Harris or Griffin, or somebody else that's not really a big contributor, because Durant's pretty much on his own right now. So, I think that this series is going to go 7 because I think that the Bucks might take Game 5. And hopefully they can get Irving back healthy, because that was just a very poor stat line last night for everybody besides Durant.
Now, do we see James Harden on Game 6? If they lose to Game 5, you see Nets and Harden putting Harden out there in Game 6?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to see at least Harden back. That would maybe give Kyrie a little bit more opportunity to heal up from an ankle injury. With Harden in there, because he can play the point and everything, and he can, if he's halfway healthy, he can still get you 20 plus a night. So, it's they're a very explosive team offensively when they're healthy, but right now, like you're saying, Ray, they're not. It's not looking good if Durant's the only one going out there. We saw it a few years ago with the Warriors when Kevin Durant was out, and then he tried to come back, and then he tore his Achilles. Trying to do too much on that leg. So, Golden State, as good as they were with Curry and Thompson and Draymond Green and everything, it definitely took its toll not having Durant in the lineup. He was the one that took that Warriors team to a whole new level.
Yep.
So I'm going to go over to the Atlanta Hawks and Philadelphia 76ers. I know we talked a little bit about that earlier today. We discussed a little bit about this game Atlanta Hawks, they won game 1. Clippers. I keep saying that. 76ers won game 2 and game 3. Now, who do you think is going to finish off this series?
To me, I think the 76ers is going to win in games. Probably going to go to 7 games if Joel Embiid plays like he's doing right now. If Joel Embiid gets back to Joel Embiid, getting him 35, 36, 37 points, then the Clippers is going to win. And the 76ers is going to win in 6 games. So
I keep saying the Clippers. Now you're the one that said the Clippers this time. Greg?
Well, I gotta go back a few years on this. Okay, remember a few years ago when Dallas traded Trae Young and they wanted to get Luka Doncic?
Yeah.
You know, they made that trade, and I thought, oh man, what are they doing? You know, what are they doing? Luka Doncic is an absolutely fantastic all-around player, and I thought that Trae Young was a very good player too, coming out of college. But I didn't think that Trae Young was quite on the level as Luka Doncic. But now when I look at this trade, I think it was one of the most fair trades of all time in the NBA. What Doncic provides for the Mavericks and what Trae Young provides for the Hawks, it's pretty parallel. You know, their talents, what they bring to the table statistically and from a teammate standpoint to their teams, it's got to be one of the most fair trades that I've ever seen, because they're both bringing their teams up to another level into the playoffs. And I think that the resurgence of Trae Young, you know, he's putting in 20, 25 points a night in these playoffs. He's playing outstanding. And I'm with Ray. I think that if Embiid is healthy, the 76ers will take this series. But I think that if Embiid is you know less than 80%, you know, with that slight meniscus tear, and he's playing more like he did tonight, I think that the Atlanta Hawks have a good chance of kind of shocking the world and moving on.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think Joel Embiid needs to play under limited minutes in Game 5. That's just to be honest. Maybe even not even play at all in Game 5. Now,
I hate to see it. I don't know how you guys feel, but I hate to see when you're getting down to the last few teams and you're getting into the heat of things in the NBA playoffs. I hate to see all these injuries, especially these key injuries to key players. You know, you're talking about Kyrie Irving with his ankle, and you're talking about Harden having some issues. You know, and you're talking about Embiid not being 100%. You know, and then you're talking about interesting plays, interesting calls from the refs. I just hate to see this stuff happening right now in the playoffs, because it's taken away from some great storylines. I'd like to see all these teams back in full health and really going at it. But it seems like all these series right now have some kind of issue going on with injuries and all kinds of other things. And I just like to see all these teams get all their main players back to full health so we can see, you know, basketball at its greatest. This is what we're supposed to be seeing, is excellent basketball. And we're seeing some of these teams going out there with their star players injured. You know, Michael Conley, one of my favorite players, you know, he's not suited up tonight for the Jazz. You know, he's a big time player for them this entire season. I just don't know how you guys feel, but I hate to see these injuries happen at this. Right at this time.
Yeah. Now, you know, like I was saying, this is the one series where I actually did not make a prediction, because I said, you know, I pointed out in the group chat, I said, I'm looking at Joel Embiid's injury to determine what I think is going to win. Now, even though I think it will be the Hawks, I really can't determine how many games it will be. But if we have games like last night, knock on wood, but I think it's going to be Atlanta Hawks in 6. Sorry, tonight.
I think the Hawks have an excellent chance at this point to make it all the way to the NBA Finals. As many injuries and everything that's stacking up on the other side of their division, So, they seem to be one of the only teams with full health going on right now.
Embiid was a rebound monster, but Jesus, he could not shoot for nothing.
Well, that's when Embiid for that. I'll answer this part right here. If Embiid would have took Capella down low, Capella could not match him down low, and that's what Embiid needs to learn how to do. He needs to learn when his jump shot is not working, take his butt down low, post him up, and use him down in the 2-point range. And as you make 2-point baskets, then you can move yourself back out to 3-point line. But you need, as a shooter, as a scorer, he needs to know that he's a 7-foot center, that he needs to take his butt down low, post up Capella, and just annihilate him. I mean, Capella cannot match him up in the post, but Embiid wants to sit there and take those jump shots. He's hurting the team by doing that. He needs to get down low, get into 2-point range, and just make Capella play defense.
I think that there's more to his injury than what he's letting on, because if he's not taking people down, he's an excellent down low player. He's got excellent post moves. I mean, he's. I think that he could go, when Kevin McHale was in his heyday. I think that would be an exciting matchup to watch, as many post moves as those two have down there. So he must really not have much faith in his lift right now if he's not wanting to take people off the dribble down low. He must not feel like he has much to finish down there or something, because like Ray's saying, he would eat Capella alive down there if he wanted to, if he was in full health.
Coach should have sat him and put Dwight Howard in.
See, Dwight Howard, I don't know. Dwight Howard can dunk and all that and can play good defense, but when you got Embiid, he can do everything else, take you center outside and all that. But like I said, Dwight Howard could have been a rebound monster, could have been a defense player. But I mean, Joel Embiid was picking up rebounds left and right. It's just him not going down low and abusing Capella. I mean, that's the thing about that. You got Embiid, you put him down low, you let him abuse Capella, let him run the offense down low and create for other players. I mean, he could do that too. He's a good passer.
So that is all I have. Any other comments before we give this close?
Yeah, the Clippers 84, Jazz 64 with 4-12 in the third.
I'll give you the other quick scoring update. Vegas won 4-1 over the Montreal Canadiens.
I'll add something. The Canadiens actually went on a pretty good run. Remember when I said that they were getting outshot by about 10 or 11 goals? Well, they closed the gap, and they actually got 29 shots on goal, but Fleury stopped everything that came his way late in the game. But they did put a little bit more pressure on, but they still weren't able to get the puck in the goal. So Fleury ended up having a great game, 1 goal off of 29 shots. It was just a little bit too much. Vegas just looked like men amongst boys tonight. They were just getting after it, and I'm really hoping that my Islanders can stick with it. I don't know. We've seen a lot of these games where a team like the Lightning or a team like the Canadiens come out and play a little flat, and I don't know if their heads aren't quite in the game or what, but they just seem to be, we've seen a lot of flat starts to a few of these series with some teams. So yeah, I'm really hoping that my Islanders can capitalize on this game one win and keep it going. But like Ray said, you can't count out Tampa Bay because they get up and down the ice really well. And one more thing that I wanted to add was, in my opinion, I thought that Embiid and Jokic were the 2 best players in the NBA for most of this season. And it's very sad to see how in 2 consecutive games we saw Jokic getting kicked out of a game, some theatrics going on and everything. And that was just a bad ending to the season for an absolute phenomenal basketball season, and I know you're pretty upset with it, Nate, and I am too. I mean, I didn't think that they were going to win the series by any means, but it's just a bad. a bad look for anybody, regardless of who it is, to get tossed out in in an elimination game, and the way that it happened, on a call that really probably shouldn't have escalated to that level. And then we saw Embiid tonight, like Ray was talking about, missing every jump shot that came his way, trying to hit down jump shots when he could have been easily scoring down low. So it's just sad to see two of the best players, just kind of have a really bad back-to-back performance like Embiid put in today with 20% shooting from the field, and then Jokic getting kicked out, which was basically Denver's only lifeline, to being competitive in this series. Like you said, Nate, it was the only one really putting out any heart and effort.
Yeah. I do have one other thing. Hold on. I will have to find. I will have to find it. I'll probably give the joke next week, assuming if the Philadelphia 76ers are. Oh yes, Danny Green, who plays for the 76ers, who also played for the Lakers last year, played for the Raptors a few years ago, and played for the Spurs, the team that he was drafted on. If he wins this NBA Finals, if the 76ers win this NBA Finals, then that means that Danny Green will have the same number of NBA championships as LeBron James.